I thought about asking for a rocking chair today so that I could better look the part of the retired management consultant. I could just rock away up here and tell you stories about the most amazing discoveries I made while advising corporate leaders for more than 20 years. But there's a problem with that image. I'm not really a rocking chair kind of person. I'm more known for rocking boats. I'm known for taking standard management best practices and turning them on their heads to change the way people think, communicate, and interact. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about my client, Max, not his real name, of course, and how watching Max led to an epiphany that takes the constructive feedback best practices, turns them on their heads, and takes the difficulty out of difficult conversations. Max was a strong leader. He ran a successful organization, and he really wanted his employees to do well and enjoy their jobs. Most did, but not all. One day, Max called me because he needed advice on how to manage a particularly difficult employee. So I sat down with Max, and I quickly explained to him everything I'd ever learned about giving constructive feedback. We zeroed in on a specific situation so Max wouldn't bring in a litany of past transgressions. We identified the observable behavior that was the problem, and I made sure Max could explain the impact of that behavior so that his employee would understand why it was a problem. We talked about how to start the meeting, how the meeting should progress, and how to put his employee at ease. We talked a lot about language, words to use, words to avoid, and how Max could best phrase his concerns. When we finished, Max was ready. He was standing tall and confident. He was almost excited for this meeting because he imagined it going so much better than all the meetings in the past. And then it didn't. When we met later, Max was in pain. He was angry with his employee, but he was even angrier with himself because he knew his behavior did not reflect the thoughtful, helpful man he thought he was. As Max explained what actually happened in the meeting, that's when I had my epiphany. That's when I realized what was wrong with all that advice I'd ever heard about giving constructive feedback. That's when I saw what was missing. Max went into that meeting knowing exactly what to say, but not what to think. His words were well chosen, but his thoughts were condescending, judgmental, even punitive. Truth be told, Max was determined to fix that guy or fire him. So there was a huge disconnect between what Max planned to say and the thoughts in his head. Anyone watching, I'm sure, could see that disconnect in his body language, in his facial expressions, and hear it in his tone of voice. His employee wasn't fooled. He could sense that anger and frustration hiding behind Max's words. Max lost before he started. Given those judgmental thoughts in Max's head and his employee's ability to sense the anger and frustration, what do you think the odds are that they would have a calm, constructive conversation? What do you think the chances are that they would treat each other with respect? I'd say about 0. My epiphany showed me that it's those negative thoughts, those judgmental thoughts, especially that desire to fix or control another person, that causes the pain in the difficult conversations. My epiphany also showed me how to avoid that pain. So how do we take the difficulty out of difficult conversations? The answer is remarkably simple, but not always easy. The first step is to control your thoughts. You simply can't walk into a conversation thinking anything like the negative judgmental thoughts that were swirling in Max's head. The minute one person looks down on another, blames them, makes them feel like they're failing, tries to fix them or correct them or discipline them, the conversation can get ugly really fast. So you have to purge those thoughts from your brain. And to help you do that, you can use my disconnect principle, which goes like this. When something doesn't go as you expected, all you know for certain is that something didn't go as you expected. That's it. That's all you know. You probably don't know exactly what did happen, and you certainly don't know why. Unfortunately, we are quick to make assumptions. Without knowing the whole story, we often leap to the conclusion that someone is irresponsible, unreliable, thoughtless, clueless, careless, maybe lazy. And it's those exact kind of thoughts that pave the way to a difficult conversation. Furthermore, they're probably wrong. When something doesn't go as you expected, there can be a multitude of possible reasons, some of which may be your fault. Those reasons can range from anything from miscommunication to a difference in opinion or priorities, from simple accidents and mistakes to maybe fear, a lack of self-confidence to speak up and ask clarifying questions. Or maybe there's a sick child, a broken down car, or long COVID involved. But whatever the reason why something didn't go as you expected, there's only one response you need to remember. When something doesn't go as you expected, your best response is, I think we have a disconnect. That simple phrase acknowledges that something is wrong, but there's no blame. Just a disconnect. The next thing you say is, so where are we, and what do we need to do next? Those questions are also judgment-free. Furthermore, they are totally focused on the disconnect, the situation, not the person. All you want to know is where things stand and what to do next. You're not suggesting that someone screwed up. You're certainly not asking, why did you screw up? You just want to fix the disconnect, not the person. When you take this approach, you level the playing field. You treat others with respect, and you invite them to help you solve the problem. Once you resolve the disconnect, it almost always makes sense to also ask the question, so what can we do next to prevent this from happening again, this disconnect? This question provides the opportunity for you to listen, learn, and understand how you can do better next time. The disconnect principle can work between any two people, not just boss to employee. For instance, an employee might say, I think we have a disconnect. I'm working as hard as I can to meet this project deadline, and you just gave me another task that you want completed by the end of the day. Help me understand where things stand, what the priorities are, and what I need to do next. It can also work from parent to child. Did you have a messy room as a kid? Did your parents nag you to pick it up? Well, imagine if instead of nagging you, your father said, I think we have a disconnect. I think rooms should be neat and tidy, but you don't seem to think that way. How about we try to sort this out so we aren't constantly butting heads over it? Now picture your young self. Imagine how proud and empowered you would feel after hearing that. I'm certain that you would offer your opinions and suggestions. But parents, be forewarned, the best solution might be to simply close the door so you don't have to look at that mess. The disconnect principle can also make it easier for you to admit your own mistakes. Suppose you really screw up. Instead of downplaying the consequences or maybe trying to hide them altogether, if everyone around you understands the disconnect principle, you can just say, "Whoa, we have a major disconnect. I screwed up. Things are a mess. We need to sit down now and decide what needs to be done next." Whoever is involved in these disconnect conversations, the goal is always to fix the disconnect, not the person. And when you do that, there's no reason why these conversations have to be difficult. Once I discovered the disconnect principle, I taught it to all my employees, all my clients immediately. And lo and behold, they discovered that there are disconnects everywhere. "I think we have a disconnect" became a super common phrase, and it worked its magic on everything from petty disagreements to major breakdowns in communication and big problems. But in every case, people weren't having difficult conversations. They were working together to resolve the disconnects and solve problems. Had Max and his employees known about the disconnect, that employee never would have become a difficult employee. Instead, he and Max would have resolved each disconnect as it occurred. And if there were too many disconnects happening too frequently, then guess what? There's a bigger disconnect. Maybe what Max and his company needed and what that employee was willing and able to provide didn't match. But as with any disconnect, the goal is to fix the disconnect, not the person. If Max and his employee can't make that match work, then it's time to part ways. But there should be no blame, no shame, no feelings of failure, and no difficult conversations. When something doesn't go as you expected, all you know for certain is that something didn't go as you expected. No matter who disappointed you, your best response is, "I think we have a disconnect." And then your goal is to fix that disconnect, not the person. If you embrace the disconnect principle, you will discover that you will solve big problems and little problems more easily, more quickly, and more effectively. Furthermore, instead of damaging relationships with difficult conversations, you will build stronger relationships by working together to resolve disconnects and solve problems. Now, one of the greatest things about the disconnect principle is that you can start using it today. So let's practice that magic little phrase, "I think we have a disconnect," together. Those of you streaming can join in as well. When something doesn't go as you expected, what's your best response? "I think we have a disconnect." Now suppose you haven't understood a word I've said today. What's your best response? "I think we have a disconnect." Now suppose you don't believe a single thing I've said today. What's your best response? "We definitely have a disconnect." Well done, and welcome to the judgment-free zone. You are now ready to use the disconnect principle to make your life easier and make the world a better place. So go for it, and don't be afraid to rock the boat. Thank you.